Good evening, Molly Wallen here. For this week's assignment, I am going over Flight Scenario 5 for Week 7. This week's scenario, I am taking a flight to a wilderness area in the nearby state. This assignment is perfect because I live in Colorado, so it is a very hilly and lots of terrain and situations that could become an issue. So I will be departing from my local airport of Broomfield, Colorado to Cheyenne, Wyoming. So I will be going from KBJC to KCYS. I will be conducting this flight in a Piper Seminole, and then the navigation I will be using is GPS, while I will also go ahead as an extra safety precaution, get on and gather flight following. Some basic routes. I-25 does go from Denver all the way to Cheyenne. So just in case I would get lost, that is a nice backup option to be able to recognize that. And then obviously going north, I do know that the mountains will be on my left-hand side. So before the flight, I just want to go over a couple quick important things. As a single person on this flight, I need to understand single pilot resource management. So I know that that is the art and science of gathering all my resources, both prior to and during, to ensure a successful outcome of the flight. There are a couple different tasks, which I did mention in last week's video, that do encompass single pilot resource management. So once again, I just want to quickly go over that. I want to make sure to use my PAVE checklist before the flight. I want to make sure that I'm being safe. I like to use I'm safe acronym to make sure I'm not ill, on any medication, alcohol stressed, alcohol fatigue. Emotionally, I'm all good to go. I also like to review my personal minimums and when I'm gathering weather and everything, make sure that those do align and that I'm not being dangerous in any aspects like that. In terms of the aircraft, I want to make sure it's good on fuel. I'm doing my walk around with my checklist, making sure everything is good to go there. Once inside the aircraft, I will be using my checklist to make sure everything is also under and working as it should be. In terms of the environment, I want to, because it is more than 50 nautical miles away, it's not in the area, so I do want to make sure that I've done a proper pre-flight of the area. I want to make sure I'm aware of any terrain, any obstructions. These kind of accidents are what leads to controlled flight into terrain if we're not monitoring and careful of that. In terms of automation management, before I even take off, I want to have my flight programmed into there. And then I also like to use my iPad in ForeFlight, and I have that programmed as well as an extra step of caution. In terms of situational awareness, I've got any notes, any frequencies all written down. I'm closely monitoring inside the aircraft too to make sure everything is as it should be, checking terrain, checking radios, and looking for traffic. So a couple different airspeed considerations that I want to quickly go over for this flight. I did get these from the POH. So first we want to discuss the minimal controllable airspeed according to the POH. That is 56 knots. So in case of engine out procedures, that is very important to remember. It's going to be marked on most airspeed indicators with the red line. We've got our best rate of climb, which is our 88 knots, which is our VYSE, and then our BXSE, which is your best angle of climb at 82 knots. I've got my maneuvering speed on there just in case it is a really turbulent day or whatnot. We need to make sure that we keep it within the 135. And then I just went ahead in case, anything does go wrong, we want to make sure to keep our 82, which is for the VSSE. Just a quick thing that is important to note in terms of maneuvering. If an engine does go out, we do want to make sure to keep our 56 knots. That's to maintain controllability. An aircraft will have a tendency to yaw and roll, and so to counteract that, we want to make sure to use our ailerons and our rudder. Effects of drag on single engine performance. So we've got a couple things to talk about here. We do know that losing one engine can lose up to 80 to 90%, which is a huge thing. So we want to be able to make sure before the flight, if we do lose an engine, that we are going to still be able to get the climb performance necessary. We do know that it's going to be a warm day on the flight, so that could be a factor to consider. We also do know that as we lose our airspeed, we do lose our rudder authority, so we won't be able to counteract those tendencies that happen when we do lose an engine. In terms of gear, we do know that gear creates a large amount of drag, and so we don't want to get that out until our landing is assured. In terms of flaps, while it does increase our lift, it does increase drag as well. So we want to probably keep those out as well until we know it's a safe time to land. In terms of the propeller, a wind milling propeller is going to create a lot of drag, so we want to make sure to quickly feather it, and that's going to put you in a zero thrust state. And then in terms of going over before the flight, we want to make sure to do a proper pre-flight and everything, and so we want to review these performance charts. So not only did I include the climbing performance for one engine operating on the right-hand side. Because it is a warm weather day, we do need to consider the temperatures and how that affects our density, altitude, and everything. I went ahead and included that one as well. And then BJC Airport does not have any obstacles to clear. But if there is any obstacles near your airport, or you notice that there's a situation, you can check your NOTAMs, and then there are those charts for that one as well. And then just finally, I wanted to quickly go over some tasks that we can utilize in the air in case some things do go wrong. So I mentioned the 5P model, which is your pilot, your plan, your plane, your passengers, and your programming. So these are just different variables that can be affected in different phases of flight that we can consider. And so just how having your flight plan programmed, me having my extra for flight, that's my extra programming in case something does go wrong. If there's an emergency and I've got passengers on board, I can have them utilize the checklist, help me looking for traffic. In terms of the plane, once again, you just want to be continually monitoring, make sure all the systems and everything are as they should be. Plan, you want your flight plan up. You want to make sure that you have a plan of action in case something does go wrong. And so before the flight, you do want to have a proper pre-flight discussion in case of engine out or anything does go like that, does go wrong. And then in terms of pilot, once again, I reviewed my I'm safe checklist. And then I also went ahead and listed the DECIDE model, which you can review there on the right. And here are my resources. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.